What is going on, Comic Fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by the creative team of Miracle Kingdom. I got Michael and Alonso on the show. Welcome to the show, gang.
Hey,
Hey guys.
for having us.
Man, I'm so excited to talk to you both about Michael, you doing the writing on Miracle Kingdom, and Alonso, you're doing the art on that book. It's from Scout Comics. It issue 1 has been out for a little bit, and issue 2 at the time of this recording is about to drop. So but before we hop into everything Miracle Kingdom, I just want to know, how did you both get into creating comics?
Well, I actually can give you the full history right here. I'll just show you. Like, it all started here, and then moved on to this,
Oh, nice.
and then this, and then my sort of first DC character,
Okay.
and got heavily into Judge Dredd, and then in my teenage years was all about the EC comics, Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt, and the requisite Star Wars comics from the 90s that were awesome. And then I started collecting G.I. Joe. And so that was sort of my circuitous path towards comics. It wasn't, I guess, a traditional path. It just was a bit, different taste.
Yeah.
But those are my influences right there. Those are all originals, no reprints. So
I love it. I love it. It's such a diverse collection there of what got you into something, and man, I'm excited. Alonso, what about you? What was getting in the comics for you?
Let's see. Well, I always loved drawing. My parents always tell me that before I had any notion of anything, I was already drawing stuff. So I was always drawing, and I started reading manga back when I was a teenage. I was really into manga. I started drawing my own stories, and then what was it? When I was 20 something, I started reading comics. I read Sandman and all the classics.
Yeah.
And I've been into my whole life.
That's awesome. I love hearing different people's origin story of kind of how they got into comics, whether it was manga or, just a diverse amount of unique comics, and it's so cool. So if someone hasn't gotten to check out Miracle Kingdom yet, what's the pitch for Miracle Kingdom?
Sure. Miracle Kingdom is a playful detective story about an accountant in heaven who has to audit people's prayers and sniff out fraudulent miracles. And he comes across a faith healer with some dubious healing powers. And the more he investigates, the more anomalies he finds. So it ultimately asks the question, what if heaven is not such an immaculate workplace after all?
Mm.
So it's slightly absurd, slightly irreverent, but ultimately it's sort of a casual look at an office where if the outcome of the universe was just another casual day in the office. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I remember getting the preview for that from Scout, and I was like, this is such a unique idea. And where did that idea come about then?
Well, let's see. My wife is always praying for silly little things, like little throwaway thoughts. Like we'd be driving home from an event and be looking for a parking space in front of our apartment. She'd be like, "Oh, please God, let there be a parking space." And sure enough, there's the prime parking space in front of our apartment every time. And so after a while of this, I kind of said to her, I said, one day you're going to pray for something. You're going to really need something important, like a miracle. And God's going to say, well, I can't help you with that, but remember all those parking spaces I gave you through the years.
Yeah.
So that sort of planted the idea of what if prayer was like a measurable quantity, something that people could earn and then just, and then replenish. So that's part of the idea. And the other part of it was that I work as a paralegal in entertainment law. And I work with accountants and auditors and stuff like that. So I just sort of, that gelled with the world I know in my work experience, and this concept of I was thinking about prayer as a quantifiable amount. Like I thought, oh well, if you have prayer as a quantifiable amount, then you must have an accountant as a protagonist, and that's sort of how it began.
Yeah. So, Michael, I know you had said this is your first endeavor into comics. Kind of, Alonso, is this your first as well, or have you?
No, no, not at all. I've been working on indie comics for almost 10 years.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've worked for Critical Entertainment. I've been published by Arcana Studio,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also working on a couple more books for Scout.
That's fantastic. So, how did you two team up and get together to create this book?
So I went searching for artists on various places. I went to like meet and greets at Comic Con, and I went to like all different types of online portfolios. But ultimately, it was Facebook, a Facebook Connect group that I found Alonso's work. Somewhere along the line, he posted some stuff, and I saw it, and then I said, okay, it connected with me, and I just simply reached out to him. I think probably I found his email through one of his websites and just contacted him. But ultimately, it was Facebook, which introduced me to his style.
That's so cool. So, like, Alonso, when you got this, Michael reached out to you, like, hey, do you want to work on this? You know, what was it for you that were like, yes, this is, I want to run with this story.
Well, I read the script for the first couple chapters, I think, and I thought that it was like pretty unique. I thought, okay, this is fun. I've never read something like this. I've been always working on like stories about demons and stuff like that, but the way Michael took the story and made it so fun, it was like, okay, yeah, I like it. I want to draw this.
Yeah. So, Alonso, being involved in comics as long as you have, where was your kind of inspiration for your art style? That especially what it showed through here in Miracle Kingdom.
Oh, well, let's see. As I told you, my main inspiration has been always manga,
Okay.
and I've been trying to like diverge from that for quite a while. But people always tell me, "Hey, you have some manga influence, right?" And I'm always struggling with that. But when I read the script for Miracle Kingdom, I noticed that like from the start, I had to have like a really clean style for this project. Like this, like thick lines and stuff like that. So yeah, I think this kind of like more comedy stories need a more clean style, so I went for that. And I tried to diverge as much as I could from manga.
Yeah.
It's true that Alonso did express that he thought that there's a comedic element to this script, and there certainly is. The dialogue and sort of the set between the accountant and the televangelist is supposed to be very playful and ironic and tongue in cheek. And so Alonso explained. He said this needs sort of like a very clean look to it to help with that comedic tone. And it's funny that some of the people that have read it they definitely pick up on the style, but it also it adds to, unintentionally or unexpectedly, it added to the theme, which is like that our accountant is on a quest for perfection, and that he works in a very clean and very open environment where there's a lot of transparency, and there's just a thematic quality of having things sort of, even the character himself, who is a very Clark Kent sort of mold, a very good a very good natured person, right? And just and having the look of everything sort of echo that, I think just amplifies his character. So I don't know if that was intentional or just an outcome, but it kind of worked out nicely that way.
Yeah, it works really well. So what was it, Michael, about Alonso's art when you were searching through Facebook where you're like, this is it, this is what I want for this story?
Well, I wanted someone who could understand acting in comics, someone who could really capture different expressions, someone that where you could see in their eyes there's a lot of emotion behind it, because this is not a comic with a lot of action. It's mostly it's mostly dialogue and talking about conceptual things. So I wanted someone who could really make these characters have a lot to say and show emotion. And when I saw his work, it was like a spark. I knew exactly that he was that artist that could capture those things and convey those different layers, because I wanted my character to be very layered, and like, especially the faith healer, because he's a dubious person. You don't know if he's being genuine. You don't know if he's gifted. You don't know if he's being touched by God, or if he's just a scam artist. You don't know if he believes in himself that he's legitimate. There's a lot of different layers to that. And I wanted someone who understood acting, and working with Alonso and coming up with the pencils and going through the different iterations. We would talk about the different expressions and the body language of the characters, and it was he like hacked my brain. He kind of knew what I was going for, so that it was we could communicate and share ideas, and he could get it on the page so perfectly. So I was really appreciative of that process.
Yeah, well, it works, and I think you both have teamed up to make a really fun book, and an interesting, unique book. With this story, is this something that is, you have a contained story that, like, how many issues it is, or you're like, I can go and tell this for as long as I get to?
Well, yeah, there's definitely more story. In fact, when you read through the 5, you'll know that there's more story to be told. And how I go about telling that, it all depends on a few things. I would be open to doing maybe a one-off, one shot that sort of brings the characters back and takes the story into at the next level, because there's a lot more to explore in it. And I'd even, Alonso might remember this, I was trying to even consider ways to hide additional pictures in the 5th issue. Like, I wanted to hide a QR code that would lead to subsequent pages that only people that could figure it out would discover. But the gimmick didn't ultimately work, so I had to scrap that. But there is more story to be told.
Yeah. So is it currently right now just a 5-issue series?
Right now it's the 5 issues, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Alonso, you kind of said earlier about how when you read the script that you felt the more comedic tone and you had to switch up your style a little bit to match that. How do you determine where you want to take your art style when you read a script?
That's a good question. I think it depends a bit on the tone, and if it's a more serious story, I try to have more rendering on my inks, and maybe some cross hatching, and more how can I say it, like dirtier inks.
Okay.
You get it? But when the story is lighter, like Miracle Kingdom, I try to go with thicker lines and smoother brushes, right? And I try to limit the rendering as much as I can. So it depends on the colorist to add more shadows or just leave flat colors, right?
Yeah. I always like the idea of figuring out how people process stuff and think about stuff. So Michael, when you were creating this script, being one of your first foray in the comics here, how did you approach figuring out how to write a comic book, and then share that with Alonso, of what's the best way to figure out how you want to create it?
That's a great question, because I had no idea, and I didn't know that I wanted to write a comic book at the time. I was just curious about comic creation. I work in the entertainment business, so I know about script and TV format and movie format and stuff like that. But the comic format was completely unknown to me. And then one day I'm walking into a store in Sunset Boulevard, and there's a bunch of people in the back of the store gathered around a table, and there is a person teaching them about comic book making. And I said to the clerk, I said, "What are they doing?" And the clerk tells me And the next week I showed up, and I around the same time, and I paid money, and I said, I want to take this class. And then the instructor said, well, this is sort of like a predetermined class. You're coming in like week 4 of like a 10-week class. And he said, but it's okay. We'll catch up. And then from there, I just took the rest of the class, and I learned the like the ins and outs of how to script and think in comic book form, and like how to like write so that you have something interesting on the next page and have a page turner and stuff like that. All those interesting little those concepts. It was done through the structure of a class. And without that, I probably wouldn't have been able to get the genesis of Miracle Kingdom moving forward, because I would have been completely lost. But Miracle Kingdom did start in that class.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, Alonso, when you get a script, do you have a preferred method of how you want the writer to communicate for you, of like lay it all out, or do you just kind of like the, here's some ideas, let's see what you can run with?
Let's see. What we did with Miracle Kingdom, I think it was great. Michael had these like small layouts on the top of each strip page with like which panel needs to be larger, which are the smaller one, and he had it all laid out. I liked it. It's something I hadn't worked with before. Usually my clients give me a script with just like a breakdown of each panel, and like the camera angle, and that's it. But what Michael does is interesting. I like it, and it saved me a lot of time.
Yeah. So did that kind of come about from the class then, Michael?
Yeah, one of the other students devised this method of coming up with a small little grid, and that would lay out like the panels in sequence, so you could see how many panels, how the placement would work. And it was just like a little, corner of a block in the top of the page to, sort of lay out, give a general direction of what the page might look like. Of course, I always expressed to Alonso that those are just a suggestion, and for sure there were times where he would, play around with it and do sort of different things. But it was definitely a way for us to get on the same page in terms of like, just formatting it, in the layout. And I don't know, I think I hope I was detailed enough. I didn't leave too much to, for you to, scratch your head about. So
no, it was great. Like seriously, most of the time I need to scratch my head a lot when I see a script page for the first time, and I have to figure out which panel needs to be larger and each camera angle. It's usually much harder when there's no guide for that. But what you did was perfect.
We did a lot of visual references too. If there's something that like, I had a specific idea, I'd try and find something similar to, and sometimes I had to combine visual references to form in something new to convey it, because heaven, as we will find out in issue 2, is sort of is an office space that's stuck in a past time. It's like a very modern, postmodern 1950s type of office space. It has the pneumatic tubes, and like everything's sort of old fashioned in a way. I wanted this story to have a sort of a vintage feel. So stuff like that. Like I think I might have had a few visual pictures to send along to Alonso to give him an idea of some of it. But what he came up with in terms of like just blending, it's a futuristic world, but with a vintage feel. It's a crazy blend, but it's really cool. I can't wait for people to check it out.
Yeah. You're right. Like I didn't even realize it until you were describing it, that it's vintage, but it is futuristic still in that style. So was that as you, Alonso, were kind of piecing it together, of how was that process for you of trying to merge both these worlds?
Let's see. Well, first of all, I have a bachelor's degree as an architect, so I have notions of all that.
Yeah.
And when Michael gave me a script, the description, like told me all this, and he also referred to Art Deco style.
Mm.
So I took a lot of reference from that.
Nice.
And well, it was great. I think I really enjoyed the way I had to like come out with this like crazy backgrounds and these buildings. And well, I don't know if you've already watched the previews for issue 2, because I think the best visuals I've done for Miracle Kingdom are there.
Yeah. Michael got to send me a handful of issues that are out, so I've gotten to see the world in issue 2, and it's dynamite. So well done.
He does
Thanks.
great with creatures too, like creatures and animals. Also, great renderings as well.
Yeah,
I found those very impressive.
so how did you guys get this project at Scout? Did you already have it created, or did you pitch the idea to Scout? Like, where in the process did they come around?
So, I mean, as soon as I finished the script, and I put together the team, and I put the team came together from another class that I took on, like, basically about the industry. I took like an 8-hour course on like what is the comic book industry like, how do you get your ideas launched and everything. So I took a seminar, right? And they said, oh, okay, well, they gave me the Facebook page. They gave me all these different places to check out all the art stations and all that stuff. And when I got got the script together, I reached out to the team and just started to work together to find different people. You know, and Iksan Ansari, the colorist, is great, and Lucas Catoni, the letterer, is a gem. And then I said, okay, I only engaged them to do, I think it was 11 pages to put together a submission. And it was a bigger submission than normal. I wanted to show a scene from the church with the faith healer. And I wanted to show a scene in heaven, because I wanted to show both of those worlds, because they don't always interact. The faith healer and the heaven doesn't interact.
Right.
But they were important to convey that these story ideas were out there. So I ended up putting together an 11-page submission, which is about 6 pages beyond what's usually required, and I sent it to Scout. Like the week the letters came in, I made the submission, and then about a week or 2 later, I got a response from Scout, and they said, we like it, we want to do it. And I was like, okay, great. Now I have to complete the rest of the series. But no, it was fine. From those 11 pages, I then had to. I didn't have subsequent issues written yet. Like, I had to write the rest of it. Actually, maybe I did have most of it written at the time. But anyways, the editor at Scout at the time had me make some major changes to the story. So it was a 4-issue series, and the editor said, he said, this is an interesting concept, but we need something more for Winston to try and do, other than the pursuit of perfection and making sure that miracles are cleared and accounted for properly. There needs to be something more. And that's when I came up with the idea of I wanted to do this really quickly, because I know that the creative team's got other commitments, and I don't want to keep them waiting while I try and revamp and rewrite this series. So I had to go with just the first thing that came to my mind. I said, okay, we're going to do a Philip Marlowe inspired detective story about a woman in distress who comes to Winston, the accountant, to talk to him about her son, who's been claimed by this church and has brainwashed him into believing that he's actually healed when he's not. I said, okay, that might be interesting enough to try and start the story forward. So I came up with that really quick. I wrote it super fast and then submitted it to the editor and said, okay, let's go with it. I got the green light, and then the team was able to continue with the work without losing that window of time to have them all together. So, yeah. What was your question?
Was just how you got brought to Scout. So that's how we got to Scout.
That's basically it. And then like once we had the green light for the first issue, it was just the same process over. We just would work on it and deliver, and then go through the next issue. But in my revamping it, I went from a 4-issue series to a 5-issue series because I had to add that extra story beat in there and thread it through the different issues. So, it was an interesting process.
Alonso, when for you, when you get a script, how long is a process for you of doing a book or even just a page, when it gets to like working, figuring out your art?
Okay, let's see. I think it depends a little bit. Usually a page takes me about a day.
Okay.
And then like last month, I started a new project, and I think it took me a little bit more than a month to finish all 20 pages.
Okay. Yeah. I realized I've always had artists on, and I've never asked that. And I'm just really curious of, as hear Michael talk about the quick turnaround of, writing. I know the process sometimes is not that quick for artists.
Well, it depends a lot on the artist. I know some artists that can pull 2 pages a day.
Yeah.
But it all depends on how much detail you want to put in. On my end, what I do is I read the script. I do a first layout of the panels, and those are usually like really rough, but I tend to do it more detailed. So when I jump to like upscale it and make it into like finished pencils, it's much faster.
Yeah.
And then I jump to inks. I think that the whole thing takes me about 8 or 9 hours.
Okay. So it's a good chunk of time doing that process. And how much like back and forth was it with you two of sending pages back or rewrites or anything like that? Was there a lot of back and forth, or was it kind of just like, here it is, boom boom, we got it?
Well, we had a 5-day week schedule. I would send. What I would do is I'd upload the script to everybody. We used like an app that we could talk together and share all and collaborate together. And so they had the script in full in advance, and then we would just Alonso would start on a page, and then he would send me his pencils, which usually were kind of beyond, not rough pencils at the beginning. It was mostly they were really well thought out pencils, and then I would just give feedback, but every day we had communication where he would be sending me new versions or a new page, and I'd be giving him my comments. In the morning, I'd be giving my comments to Alonso, and at night, I'd be giving my comments to the colorist, Ixon. So it was like day and night, where I was constantly in communication with the team. And then when we got to the lettering stage, it was the same thing. It was like the process. I'm working on issue 2 with Alonso and issue 1 with the other gentleman. And so it was a constant communication. But Alonso had a really fast turnaround time. And I wonder also, like, Alonso, when you work on this stuff, like, you must have to also take time to research things, to research certain characters or clothing or landscape,
Well, yeah, I do. Well, first of all, at least on my end, I think the process was like really smooth. I think we didn't have like much to redraw when it came to drawing pages. But about the research, I usually do some research for like styles and stuff like that. And lately, I've do some prep work before I start a comic, like looking for the locations and trying to make the most of most of the backgrounds. I try to do it on SketchUp. I am I have like pretty strong perspective skills, but I find that it's much faster when you work with a 3D model.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
cool.
that was a cool thing that he would do is they would, before starting a scene, sometimes he'd create the room and the model and the build of it, so everything just sort of has a place, and you don't have to worry about, oh, what was in the background at this angle and the reverse shot, like what was in the background of that angle, and you had it all, and the perspective was all sort of worked out. That was a very clever approach.
That's so neat. I want to respect both of your time. And then so as we're wrapping up here, Miracle Kingdom, as said at the start of the video, issue 1's out. When we're recording this, issue 2 is about to drop.
Yeah,
what day does that actually come out?
It'll be in stores July 12th.
Okay.
And then issue 3 is going to be probably sometime in early August. I don't have the exact date yet, but what I can tell you is that pre-orders for issue 4 are going on right now. So, like, if people are out there want to support Scout, support a first-time creator such as myself, and a terrific artist like Alonso and the rest of the team, definitely reach out to your comic book store and ask for Miracle Kingdom on your pull list. There's still time to get issue 4, which for me is my personal favorite. It's one of the more imaginative turns in the story. So I can't wait for people to check that one out. Yeah. And then issue 5 will be out sometime probably in October.
Very cool. Very cool. So where can people follow along with both of you, online or however, so that way they can stay up to date with what you're working on?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay.
Okay, for Twitter, I am. Let's see if I can hold this up here. Can you see that? Is that backwards to you?
No. Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, at Miracle_Kingdom with a 0, and then Instagram, I am at Miracle_Kingdom_comic.
And Alonso, where can people follow along with you?
For me, I usually use my Instagram account. It's Alonso Molina .art at Instagram.
Awesome. And I will have the links to both all these links that we shared with social media and stuff here in the description of this video, or if you're listening on the on Spotify or Apple Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, it'll be in the description of that as well. But Michael, Alonso, both, thank you so much just for taking some time out of your busy schedule to just talk about comics with me.
I love it. I love taking time out of my day to talk about comics. It's the best time. It's the best way to spend your day. And
right.
Thank you so much, Bearded Comic Bro, for having us on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, man. Well, same here. It's been great. I can't wait to have the podcast and share it on my social media.
Absolutely. Well, gang, go check out Miracle Kingdom if you haven't been inspired to pick it up yet. I don't know what you're missing, because I was hooked after hearing that whole concept, and this has been a lot of fun. Go check it out, order it from your store, support indie comics. And with that being said, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.